Today I'm making a thermos detonator. Get it? Because it's a drink cozy what looks like a Star Wars. For this build, I used EVA foam, craft foam, coffee foam, super glue, cutting tools, sanding tools, safety gear, scissors, razor pens, and a box cutter. Here we go. First I'm gonna make a template because I needed several and they all have to be identical. Particularly, the circumference has to be precise in order to fit a standard soda can. That can be tricky to figure out, so this will be available, linked in comments down below. For the core, I'm going to use a sheet of 4mm craft foam and then add detail to the outside. I align the core template to the corner of the sheet to take advantage of the pre-existing clean cut edge. I weighted that down with a metal machinist block to hold in place. Yeah, it's paper, it slides around. I traced the pattern with the heat erasable fabric marking pen, and then I cut it out with the razor pen. Once it was cut out, I heat formed it with my heat gun. Then I rolled it up and stuck it inside of a tube to cool. This will help them retain their curved shape. In this case, the tube is an earlier prototype that I made to hold a water bottle. I actually made several. See, this build originally started out as a convenient way to stay hydrated in my stormtrooper armor, and evolved from there is the PR way of saying my obsession got out of hand. So here are the three. It looks like that they get progressively shorter, but this one was actually the first one. I built this for the stormtrooper, and when I was finished, I realized, hey, this is like water bottle shaped, and EVA foam, yeah, it's an insulator. It gets hot if you have to wear it all day. So I should just make one that can hold a water bottle. This was the next version. In order to get the dimensions looking right, I went with thinner 4mm foam and a thinner water bottle, and widened these trenches a bit so that it would fit to the hook on the back of the belt. Also added a few extra details to sort of hide the fact that this was hinged. And this is great at conventions, but it's a little impractical in day-to-day life. It's just kind of tippy being so tall. So I made another iteration about the size of a 12-ounce drink. I put some spacers in there so the top of the can would be the right height, but it can also hold a 16-ounce. Unfortunately, I glued those in there, so we're back to the height issue. So I'm gonna make another one for the taller cans, and as a demonstration for anyone willing to pick up the templates, which I do strongly recommend if you want to build the Stormtrooper armor, but might feel a little intimidated by such a large project. Say if you're a beginner. You know, pick up the koozie template, build that, see how you do with it, and then you will have developed some skill by the time you get to the armor. Not to mention, if you're still intimidated by that project, keep in mind you've already finished 10% of it. When it cooled, I glued the edges together and then repeated the process for the exterior wrap. This wraps around the exterior. Crazy, right? However, the ends don't quite connect, leaving a black trench along the side and a black band at either end where the core layer is exposed. I stuck that in another cozy prototype. That one was actually good, but I've been using it in my painting station and it's getting somewhat splattered. It's weathering that doesn't quite work for the Star Wars universe. Like a Dalmatian trooper. Then I traced and cut a foam circle. This is the interior diameter of the cozy. I'm actually gonna make a white one for the end cap, but I need to make a bunch of these foam spacers as well. See, I drink a lot of energy drinks. Clearly, I've not had enough. Probably should have had one before this recording. It's been a long couple of days. Anyway, energy drinks tend to come in a tall can, which is great because the thermal detonator is kind of tall, but I also drink beverages in shorter cans, which would just drop right into the bottom of the cozy. So I made a few spacers to prevent that from happening and keep the shorter drinks at the same level. Also prevents me from having to wash a cozy. Does anybody wash cozies? Or do you just throw them out after a while? I drilled a hole in the center of the spacer, each spacer, to prevent any air pressure issues, which did come up in one of my prototypes. Like it creates a little bit of a seal and you can't get it out of there. This is a leather hole punch. You can also just use a pipe, though I think it needs to be sharpened. Hang on. There we go. I made duplicates of those, and then I made the base of the cozy out of white scrap foam, left over from the Clone Trooper build, I think. This is about as large of a piece that I'll save for scrap, because the tinier scraps just turn into clutter, and I never use it. The puzzle pieces I'll occasionally use is like shims, but they accumulate faster than I can get rid of them. Hashtag maker problems. So that flash is getting thrown out once it's trimmed off. It's very difficult to cut perfect circles out of EVA foam that are between 1 and 10 inches in diameter. I don't know why, but at any rate, I sanded those rough edges away on the belt sander in order to make the spacers into more perfect circles. When the circles were finished, I cut strips of floor mat foam to wrap around either end of the cylinder. When they were both cut out, I skewered them onto shish kebab skewers in order to protect my fingers from what's coming up. Next, I heat formed the pieces using my heat gun. When it was sufficiently heated up, I rolled it up and stuck it into a cylinder transparent for your benefit. By now the main core pieces are cooled, so I removed them from their tubes and glued the edges together to make a complete cylinder. To help it keep that shape while I worked, I put an empty can inside of it. Then I added the white wrap to the outside. I positioned it so that it slightly overlaps the black foam seam rather than lining up perfectly. It's cosmetic, but also reinforces the seam. Then I inserted the end cap into the bottom about halfway and glued it in with super glue, trying to leave as much space as I possibly can in there. By this time, the end strips are cool, so I got those out and wrapped one around the end cap and gluing it closed. Then I wrapped the other one around the top. Now for the exterior details. I made the main detail out of scrap strips of 2mm EVA craft foam. I glued the smaller pieces onto the larger one and then glued the whole assembly onto the cozy. Then I made the circular detail out of a piece of foam cylinder and drilled a hole in the center. Then I stuck that onto the cozy as well. Got it lined up with one of my prototypes to make sure that I have the placement right. It's a little compressed because the ones in the movie are longer, but I'm fine with that because I've got the more accurate one for actual convention appearances. You know, in fact, some people doing clone trooper costumes had tiny thermal detonators. And I'm like, okay, so proportionally that works a little bit better because the clone troopers seem to be a bit skinnier. Doesn't really work as a water bottle holder, but it could work for those energy drinks that come in really narrow cans. Just saying. And this is what it should look like. And of course, spacers can be added to accommodate different can sizes. And that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, I'd like to thank my patrons. These videos just wouldn't be possible without the support of my patrons. So if you enjoy these builds, want to see more of them, and want your build request to carry a bit more weight, then think about heading on over to the Patreon page, where you can enjoy ad-free early uploads. Anything you can pledge goes towards improving the video quality and shop equipment, as well as allowing me to put together bigger and more exciting projects for you on the channel. Alright, hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified of the future uploads, because it's kind of at a totally random schedule. And let me know what other props you'd like to see me make in comments down below. Thanks again, happy crafting, see you later!